The Science of Conscious Wealth Part 1. The certain way of thinking. I think in a certain way, that I speak in a certain way, that I act in a certain way, and because I do, wealth flows to me now. This is not a theory. This is law. The universe responds to thought, not someday. Not eventually. That it responds now. Wealth is not a chase. That it is not a grind. That it is not reserved for the few. Wealth is a frequency, and I tune into it with my mind. I do not beg for abundance. That I do not wish for it. That I do not wait for it. That I claim it. That I think it. That I live it. The power is in thought, not scattered thought, not wishful thought, but thought held with certainty, thought that knows, thought that commands. I do not ask, will it work? I declare, it works because I work it. I do not ask, is this true? I say, this is truth, and I prove it with my life. Every person who gets rich does so by thinking in a certain way, not by luck, not by inheritance, not by chance, but by law. I think in alignment with wealth. I think in alignment with abundance. That I think in alignment with truth, and truth is this: I am the source. That I am the cause. That I am the creator. Bob Proctor teaches that thoughts become things. Joe Dispenza shows that the brain and body respond to new thoughts as if they are real now. Neville Goddard insists that imagination is reality. Wattles affirms that wealth is created by thinking in a certain way. I do not need to understand every detail. That I do not need to master every theory. That I need only to think with clarity, with conviction, and with consistency. I do not think poverty. That I do not think lack. That I do not think limitation. That I think wealth. That I think expansion. That I think possibility. And because I think it, I feel it. Because I feel it, I act it. Because I act it, I live it. This is the certain way. That it is not complicated. That it is not reserved. That it is available to all who choose it. I choose it now. I do not wait for conditions to change. That I change the condition with my thought. I do not wait for the economy to shift. That I shift my economy with my mind. I do not wait for permission. That I give myself permission. That I do not wait for proof. That I become the proof. I am not a victim of circumstance. That I am the architect of reality. That I am not a product of the past. That I am the producer of the present. I think in pictures of wealth. That I speak words of wealth. That I take actions of wealth, and wealth responds. I do not think about what I lack. That I think about what I create. That I do not think about what I fear. That I think about what I know. And I know this: wealth is mine, abundance is mine, success is mine. Not someday, not maybe, now. I do not dilute my thought with doubt. That I do not pollute my mind with fear. That I do not entertain contradiction. That I hold one thought: I am wealthy. I hold it in the morning. That I hold it at night. That I hold it when I walk, when I speak, when I breathe. I do not argue with reality. That I create reality. I do not ask the world to change. That I change the world by changing my thought. I do not wait for evidence. I become the evidence. I do not wait for signs. That I am the sign. I do not wait for miracles. That I am the miracle. This is the certain way. That it is not passive. That it is not hesitant. That it is not weak. It is bold. That it is clear. That it is powerful. I do not think, I hope. I think, I know. I do not think, I wish. I think, I am. I am wealthy. That I am abundant. That I am prosperous. I do not think, someday. I think, today. I do not think, almost. I think, already. I do not think, if. I think, when. And when is now? I do not think, try. I think, do. I do not think, maybe. I think, must. I must succeed, that I must expand, that I must become. Because I am already becoming, because I am already expanding, because I am already succeeding. I do not think small, that I do not think safe, that I do not think average. I think big, that I think bold, that I think brilliant. And because I think it, I see it, because I see it, I feel it, because I feel it, I live it. This is not fantasy, this is not fiction, this is fact. Thought creates reality, thought creates wealth, thought creates life. I think in a certain way, and because I do, wealth is mine. I do not need to hustle, that I do not need to force, that I do not need to chase. I align, that I attract, that I allow. I do not compete, that I create, that I do not beg, that I become. I do not shrink, that I shine. I do not wait, that I walk. I walk in wealth, that I walk in power, that I walk in truth. This is the certain way, and I walk it now. Part 2, the power of imagination. I imagine with power, that I imagine with precision, that I imagine with purpose, and because I do, reality bends. Imagination is not escape, that it is creation, that it is not fantasy, that it is blueprint, that it is not pretend, that it is command. Neville Goddard teaches, what you imagine, you become, what you feel as real, manifests, what you persist in, hardens into fact. I do not wait for the world to show me proof, that I show the world my vision, that I do not ask for permission to dream, that I dream boldly, and the world adjusts. I see wealth, that I see freedom, that I see expansion, and because I see it, I live it. I do not imagine what I fear, that I imagine what I love. I do not rehearse failure, that I rehearse success. I do not picture obstacles, that I picture outcomes, that I do not visualize delay, that I visualize arrival. I do not hope, that I know, that I do not wish, that I witness. I witness the life I choose, that I witness the wealth I create, that I witness the abundance I embody. Imagination is the womb of reality, that it is the place where form begins, that it is the canvas of creation, and I paint with clarity. I do not imagine vaguely, that I imagine vividly, that I do not imagine someday, that I imagine now. I see the numbers in my account, that I see the clients I serve, that I see the impact I make, that I see the joy I live. I do not imagine from outside, that I imagine from within, that I do not look at the world and react, that I look within and create. I do not imagine as a spectator, that I imagine as the star, that I do not imagine as a beggar, that I imagine as the source. I do not imagine what might be, that I imagine what is, and what is wealth. I do not imagine with doubt, that I imagine with certainty, that I do not imagine with fear, that I imagine with love. I do not imagine once, that I imagine daily, that I imagine deeply, that I imagine deliberately. I do not imagine to escape reality, that I imagine to shape it. I do not imagine to feel better, that I imagine to become better. I do not imagine to cope, that I imagine to conquer. I do not imagine to survive, that I imagine to thrive. This is the power of imagination, that it is not weak, that it is not passive, that it is not optional. It is essential, that it is electric, that it is divine. I imagine with emotion, that I imagine with movement, that I imagine with music, with rhythm, with breath. I feel the scene, that I hear the words, that I taste the success. I do not imagine from lack, that I imagine from fullness, that I do not imagine from need, that I imagine from knowing. I do not imagine to get that I imagine to give that I do not imagine to fix that I imagine to flow. I do not imagine to change the world that I imagine to change myself, and because I change, the world follows. I do not imagine what others expect that I imagine what I choose that I do not imagine what is safe that I imagine what is sacred. I do not imagine what is probable that I imagine what is powerful. I do not imagine what is logical that I imagine what is luminous. I do not imagine what is familiar that I imagine what is free. I do not imagine what is small that I imagine what is sovereign. I do not imagine what is convenient that I imagine what is cosmic. I do not imagine what is temporary that I imagine what is timeless. This is the power of imagination that it is not a toy that it is a tool that it is not a luxury that it is a law. I imagine wealth, and wealth appears that I imagine freedom, and freedom unfolds that I imagine joy, and joy expands. I do not imagine to test the universe that I imagine to trust it. I do not imagine to manipulate that I imagine to magnetize. I do not imagine to force that I imagine to flow. I do not imagine to prove that I imagine to embody. I do not imagine to impress that I imagine to express. I do not imagine to escape the now. I imagine to empower the now. I do not imagine to be seen that I imagine to see. I do not imagine to be chosen that I imagine to choose. I do not imagine to be saved that I imagine to be sovereign. This is the power of imagination, and I use it now. I imagine my life as I desire it that I imagine my business as I build it that I imagine my wealth as I live it. I do not imagine halfway that I imagine fully. I do not imagine someday that I imagine today. I do not imagine with hesitation that I imagine with heat. I do not imagine with logic that I imagine with love. I do not imagine with limits that I imagine with light. This is the power of imagination, and I wield it now. Part 3. Faith and feeling. I feel it now that I believe it now that I live it now, and because I do, wealth becomes flesh. Faith is not hoping, faith is knowing, faith is not waiting, faith is walking. I do not ask, will it happen? I declare, it is happening. I do not wonder, is it possible? I affirm, it is inevitable. Faith is the bridge between thought and form, feeling is the fuel that carries it across. Neville Goddard teaches, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, live in the end, feel it real. I do not wait for results to feel successful that I feel successful, and results appear that I do not wait for money to feel wealthy that I feel wealthy, and money flows. I do not wait for love to feel whole that I feel whole, and love arrives. This is not imagination alone, this is embodiment, this is vibration, this is truth. I do not fake it that I feel it that I do not pretend that I possess. I do not act as if that I act because it is. I feel the life I choose that I feel the wealth I create that I feel the joy I am. I do not feel from memory that I feel from mastery that I do not feel from past that I feel from power. I do not feel from circumstance that I feel from choice. I do not feel from reaction that I feel from creation. I do not feel from fear that I feel from faith. Faith is not blind, faith sees beyond, faith is not weak, faith moves mountains. I do not need evidence to believe that my belief is the evidence that I do not need proof to feel that my feeling is the proof. I do not wait for signs that I am the sign that I do not wait for miracles that I am the miracle. I do not wait for change, that I am the change. This is the power of faith, that it is not passive, that it is not soft, that it is fierce, that it is focused, that it is final. I do not believe halfway, that I believe fully, that I do not believe sometimes, that I believe always. I do not believe with doubt, that I believe with depth. I do not believe with fear, that I believe with fire. I do not believe with logic, that I believe with love. Faith is not fragile, faith is force. I do not believe because I see, that I see because I believe. I do not feel because I have, that I have because I feel. I do not wait for the world to change, that I change the world with my feeling. I do not wait for the door to open, that I walk through it in my mind. I do not wait for the opportunity, that I become the opportunity. I do not wait for the invitation, that I am the invitation. I do not wait for the answer. I am the answer. This is the power of faith and feeling, that it is not theory, that it is not philosophy, that it is reality. I feel the wealth now, that I feel the freedom now, that I feel the success now. And because I feel it, I live it. I do not feel lack, that I feel overflow, that I do not feel scarcity, that I feel surplus. I do not feel fear, that I feel fire. I do not feel doubt, that I feel destiny. I do not feel confusion, that I feel clarity. I do not feel waiting, that I feel winning. I do not feel someday, that I feel now. I do not feel almost, that I feel already. I do not feel maybe, that I feel must. This is the power of feeling, that it is not decoration, that it is declaration. I do not feel to entertain, that I feel to embody. I do not feel to escape, that I feel to expand. I do not feel to cope, that I feel to conquer. I do not feel to survive, that I feel to soar. I do not feel to impress, that I feel to express. I do not feel to be chosen, that I feel to choose. I do not feel to be seen, that I feel to see. I do not feel to be saved, that I feel to be sovereign. This is the power of faith and feeling, that it is not theory, that it is not philosophy, that it is reality. I feel the wealth now, that I feel the freedom now, that I feel the success now. And because I feel it, I live it. I do not feel lack, that I feel overflow, that I do not feel scarcity, that I feel surplus. I do not feel fear, that I feel fire. I do not feel doubt, that I feel destiny. I do not feel confusion, that I feel clarity. I do not feel waiting, that I feel winning. I do not feel someday, that I feel now. I do not feel almost, that I feel already. I do not feel maybe, that I feel must. This is the power of feeling, that it is not decoration, that it is declaration. I do not feel to entertain, that I feel to embody. I do not feel to escape, that I feel to expand. I do not feel to cope, that I feel to conquer. I do not feel to survive, that I feel to soar. I do not feel to impress, that I feel to express. I do not feel to be chosen, that I feel to choose. I do not feel to be seen, that I feel to see. I do not feel to be saved, that I feel to be sovereign. This is the power of faith and feeling, and I live it now. I do not wait for the world to reflect me, that I reflect the world. I do not wait for the mirror to change, that I change the image. I do not wait for the music to play, that I become the song. I do not wait for the light to shine, that I am the sun. I do not wait for the tide to turn, that I am the ocean. I do not wait for the wind to blow, that I am the breath. I do not wait for the stars to align that I am the cosmos. This is the power of faith and feeling, and I rise in it now. Part 4. The energy of action. I move with purpose, that I act with alignment, that I execute with energy, and because I do, wealth accelerates. Action is not struggle, action is not stress, action is not sacrifice, action is flow, action is fire, action is faith in motion. I do not wait for motivation, that I move with momentum, that I do not wait for clarity, that I create clarity through movement. I do not wait for the perfect plan, that I act on the perfect impulse. Inspired action is not random, that it is precise, that it is powerful, that it is productive. I do not act from fear, that I act from vision. I do not act from pressure, that I act from passion. I do not act to fix, that I act to fulfill. I do not act to prove, that I act to express. I do not act to survive, that I act to soar. This is the energy of action, that it is not frantic, that it is focused, that it is not chaotic, that it is creative. I do not hustle, that I harmonize, that I do not grind, that I grow. I do not chase, that I choose. I do not force, that I flow. I do not push, that I pull. I do not act from lack, that I act from overflow. I do not act from need, that I act from knowing. I do not act from desperation, that I act from destiny. This is the energy of action, and I live it now. I do not wait for the world to move, that I move the world. I do not wait for the door to open, that I build the door. I do not wait for the invitation, that I send it to myself. I do not wait for the green light, that I am the signal. I do not wait for the map, that I walk the path. I do not wait for the applause, that I perform with power. I do not wait for the reward, that I act as the reward. This is the energy of action, that it is not passive, that it is not hesitant, that it is not optional. It is essential, that it is electric, that it is exponential. I act now, that I act boldly, that I act brilliantly. I do not wait for confidence, that I act, and confidence follows. I do not wait for certainty, that I act, and certainty grows. I do not wait for results, that I act, and results respond. I do not wait for perfection, that I act, and progress multiplies. I do not wait for permission, that I act, and power expands. This is the energy of action, and I embody it now. I do not act alone, that I act with the universe, that I do not act blindly, that I act with vision. I do not act randomly, that I act with rhythm. I do not act from habit, that I act from heart. I do not act from memory, that I act from mastery. I do not act from reaction, that I act from revelation. I do not act from fear, that I act from fire. I do not act from doubt, that I act from destiny. This is the energy of action, and I rise in it now. I do not wait for the right time, that I declare, the time is now. I do not wait for the right mood, that I declare, the mood is mastery. I do not wait for the right words, that I declare, I am the message. I do not wait for the right audience, that I declare, I am the magnet. I do not wait for the right conditions, that I declare, I am the creator. This is the energy of action, and I move in it now. I do not act to get, that I act to give, that I do not act to impress, that I act to impact. I do not act to be seen, that I act to see. I do not act to be chosen, that I act to choose. I do not act to be validated, that I act to be victorious. I do not act to be accepted, that I act to be activated. This is the energy of action, and I live it now. I do not wait for the world to catch up, that I lead. I do not wait for the market to shift, that I shift the market. I do not wait for the trend to change, that I change the trend. I do not wait for the system to evolve, that I evolve the system. I do not wait for the rules to bend, that I bend reality. This is the energy of action, and I embody it now. I do not act from fatigue, that I act from fire. I do not act from confusion, that I act from clarity. I do not act from scarcity, that I act from surplus. I do not act from fear, that I act from faith. I do not act from doubt, that I act from destiny. This is the energy of action, and I rise in it now. Part 5. The field of abundance. I live in the field of abundance, that I breathe it, that I move in it, that I create from it. This field is not distant, that it is not hidden, that it is not reserved for the elite, that it is here, that it is now, that it is mine. Joe Dispenza teaches, the quantum field responds to thought and emotion, not tomorrow, not eventually, now. Neville Goddard affirms, imagination is the gateway, feeling is the key, faith is the bridge. I do not wait for abundance to arrive, that I tune into it, that I align with it, that I become it. I do not chase wealth, that I collapse time, that I collapse space, that I collapse doubt. I do not ask, where is it? I declare, it is here. The field of abundance is infinite, that it does not run out, that it does not shrink, that it does not judge. It expands, that it multiplies, that it responds. I do not need to earn it, that I need to embody it, that I do not need to deserve it, that I need to decide it. I do not need to wait, that I need to wake up. I wake up to the truth, everything I desire already exists, everything I imagine is already real, everything I feel is already forming. I do not live in a world of limits, that I live in a field of light. I do not live in a world of scarcity, that I live in a field of surplus. I do not live in a world of competition, that I live in a field of creation. This is the field of abundance, and I move in it now. I do not ask for permission to receive, that I receive because I am aligned. I do not ask for proof before I believe, that I believe, and proof appears. I do not ask for signs before I act, that I act, and signs follow. I do not ask for wealth to validate me, that I validate wealth by becoming it. This is the field of abundance, that it is not a place, that it is a frequency. I tune in with thought, that I amplify with feeling, that I activate with action. I do not wait for the world to change, that I change my signal. I do not wait for the economy to shift, that I shift my vibration. I do not wait for the market to move, that I move my mind. This is the field of abundance, and I rise in it now. I do not ask, how long will it take? I declare, it takes as long as I decide. I do not ask, is it realistic? I declare, it is real. I do not ask, is it possible? I declare, it is inevitable. I do not ask, is it allowed? I declare, I am the law. This is the field of abundance, and I live in it now. I do not wait for the stars to align, that I align myself. I do not wait for the gate to open, that I walk through it in my mind. I do not wait for the universe to choose me, that I choose myself. I do not wait for the future to arrive, that I arrive in the future now. This is the field of abundance, and I create from it now. I do not create from memory that I create from mastery. I do not create from habit that I create from heart. I do not create from fear that I create from fire. I do not create from logic that I create from love. I do not create from the past that I create from the present. This is the field of abundance, and I expand in it now. I do not shrink to fit the world that I expand to shape it. I do not dim to be accepted that I shine to be activated. I do not bend to be chosen that I rise to choose. I do not wait to be seen that I see myself. I do not wait to be saved that I save my signal. This is the field of abundance, and I live in it now. I do not ask for wealth that I become wealth. I do not ask for freedom that I embody freedom. I do not ask for success that I express success. I do not ask for joy that I radiate joy. I do not ask for love that I am love. This is the field of abundance, and I rise in it now. I do not wait for the world to reflect me that I reflect the world. I do not wait for the mirror to change that I change the image. I do not wait for the music to play that I become the song. I do not wait for the light to shine that I am the sun. I do not wait for the tide to turn that I am the ocean. I do not wait for the wind to blow that I am the breath. I do not wait for the stars to align that I am the cosmos. This is the field of abundance, and I live in it now. Part 6. The life of wealth. I live wealth that I breathe wealth that I walk wealth, and because I do, I teach wealth by example. Wealth is not something I chase that it is something I carry that it is not something I earn that it is something I express. I do not wait to become wealthy that I live as wealth now that I do not wait for the future to change that I change the present with my presence. I do not speak of abundance as theory that I speak it as truth that I do not practice prosperity as ritual that I live it as rhythm. I do not perform success that I embody it. This is the life of wealth that it is not a destination that it is a decision. I decide to live richly that I decide to live freely that I decide to live fully. I do not shrink to fit the world that I expand to shape it. I do not dim to be accepted that I shine to be activated. I do not bend to be chosen that I rise to choose. I do not wait to be seen that I see myself. I do not wait to be saved that I save my signal. This is the life of wealth, and I live it now. I do not hoard that I circulate that I do not cling that I contribute. I do not fear loss that I trust flow. I do not protect scarcity that I promote surplus. I do not guard my gifts that I give them freely. I do not hide my light that I beam it boldly. This is the life of wealth, and I rise in it now. I do not teach with words alone that I teach with embodiment. I do not inspire with theory that I inspire with truth. I do not lead with pressure that I lead with presence. I do not guide with rules that I guide with resonance. I do not mentor with memory that I mentor with mastery. This is the life of wealth, and I share it now. I do not wait to be ready that I am ready. I do not wait to be perfect that I am powerful. I do not wait to be complete that I am called. I do not wait to be certified that I am chosen. I do not wait to be approved that I am aligned. This is the life of wealth, and I walk it now. I do not live for applause that I live for impact. I do not live for validation that I live for vibration. I do not live for status that I live for soul. I do not live for image, that I live for integrity. I do not live for control, that I live for creation. This is the life of wealth, and I expand it now. I do not separate money from meaning, that I merge them. I do not separate profit from purpose, that I unify them. I do not separate success from spirit, that I embody both. I do not separate business from beauty, that I build with both. I do not separate growth from grace, that I rise with both. This is the life of wealth, and I elevate it now. I do not ask, what do I get? I ask, who do I become? I do not ask, what do I earn? I ask, what do I express? I do not ask, what do I sell? I ask, what do I serve? I do not ask, what do I build? I ask, what do I bless? I do not ask, what do I teach? I ask, what do I transmit? This is the life of wealth, and I radiate it now. I do not live in fear, that I live in flow. I do not live in doubt, that I live in destiny. I do not live in scarcity, that I live in surplus. I do not live in confusion, that I live in clarity. I do not live in hesitation, that I live in heat. This is the life of wealth, and I rise in it now. I do not wait for the world to reflect me, that I reflect the world. I do not wait for the mirror to change, that I change the image. I do not wait for the music to play, that I become the song. I do not wait for the light to shine, that I am the sun. I do not wait for the tide to turn, that I am the ocean. I do not wait for the wind to blow, that I am the breath. I do not wait for the stars to align, that I am the cosmos. This is the life of wealth, and I live it now. If this message stirred something in you, if you felt the shift, the spark, the truth, then don't just leave quietly. Hit that like button to affirm your energy. Subscribe to stay connected to this frequency of transformation. And drop a comment below, tell me what awakened in you, what you're claiming, what you're ready to live. This isn't just a channel. It's a movement. And you're part of it now.